As the year 2022 comes to a close, we'll take you down memory lane around some of the major stories that made the headlines within the year. Perhaps in the future, historians will come to describe 2022 as a sort of pivot in history, marking the end of an era and catapulting into another. I'm Aisha Salihu, and this is Year in Review on Trust Television. So we begin with the month of January, when retired and serving members of the Nigerian Armed Forces thronged ministries of finance and defense in the Federal Capital Territory to protest against unpaid pension, salaries and allowances, demanding a review of national health insurance, among other issues. Take a look.
We are here because some of our demands, or let me say many of our demands, are yet to be met by the authority, and we have done everything humanly possible to ensure that we are listened to. Unfortunately, the letters we wrote to those in authority, not even an official response has been made. And so we decided to come out, since that's the only option, to come out and have a peaceful protest like we have had in other states across the country, so that the world can sympathize with us and maybe, talk to government to address our issues.
I'm here, as well as my colleagues, just to ask for what the government support have given us, me especially and my colleagues, are just a token for work well done. For example, you know yourself, not even only for military, as a civilian counterpart, so I've done theirs. At least it's an expedient, good thing for them to have been honored financially.
Other demands the veterans made include a review of the wide disparity in pay and pension across the ranks of serving and retired personnel, inclusion of Nigerian Civil War veterans that were verified in 2015 into pension payroll, a review of the National Health Insurance Scheme for veterans, among other issues.
This is where our tabled matters have boiling issues. Yeah, so we have demanded for a letter or to see the minister, and we insisted that if a date is fixed, it must be before 15th of January.
After hours of waiting for an address from the Ministry of Defense, officials on ground at the ministry delivered a letter addressed to the protesting retired members of the Nigerian Armed Forces.
This is a letter from the Ministry of Defense, and I'm going to read the content to all of you. He said, the chairman, Coalition of Concerned Veterans. Date is 5th January 2022. Invitation to a meeting with the Honorable Minister of Defense. The Honorable Minister of Defense has directed that a meeting be convened between him and the leadership, 5 officials of Coalition of Concerned Veterans. The meeting will afford the minister an opportunity to interact with the leadership and equally brief them on the progress made by the ministry on matters of veterans' welfare. The meeting is scheduled as follows. Date, Friday, 7th January 2022. Time, 11 a.m. prompt.
These veterans resolved to attend the closed meeting scheduled to hold with the Ministry of Defense. However, they say if their demands are not met, another protest will be staged on the 15th January, the Armed Forces Remembrance Day.
Talking about digitalization in Nigeria catching up with the rest of the world, President Muhammadu Buhari launched the national policy on 5th generation technology for Nigeria's digital economy. Speaking at the presentation of the policy approved during the Federal Executive Council meeting, the president also directed all security institutions to immediately leverage the new technology to enhance security in the country. He said the federal government will take full advantage of the opportunities provided by 5G for the economy, security, and well-being of the nation. Buhari also allayed fears of the health safety of 5G affirming that such issues have been effectively addressed in developing a policy that suits the country.
To this end, I hereby direct all the security institutions to immediately leverage 5G when deployed in order to beef up security in the country. The national 5G policy includes a deployment plan to ensure that major cities across the country benefit from the technologies. It also seeks to make 5G a major driver of our economy, a catalyst for smart cities in the country, and a platform for creation of jobs that support our digital economy.
When it comes to the priority of this administration on security, 5G deployment could be the biggest revolution for our security institutions to make their work more effective. For example, Your Excellency, sir, disruptive technologies are the fourth industrial revolution, and all of them leverage on 5G for effective usage, like emerging technologies, like artificial intelligence, robotics, augmented reality, virtual reality, quantum computing, big data analytics. All of them are part and parcel of the fourth industrial revolution, and all of them leverage on 5G, in which 5G is also part and parcel of the fourth industrial revolution. These technologies, when they are deployed by our security institutions, they will allow them to communicate on real time. And secondly, it will allow them to perform some security operations virtually without being there physically, like using virtual reality, using robotics, in which a machine that is connected to 5G will be directed to go and do an operation and come back without exposing personalities to the challenge physically.
The month of February came with lingering fuel scarcity in Abuja and parts of the country, taking its toll on motorists whose frustration from man-hour loss and long queues translates into the hike in transportation fare with an obstruction of free flow of traffic, causing unnecessary congestion.
The fuel scarcity issue has left motorists on long queues at filling stations as some abandon their vehicles, waiting their turn to purchase petrol.
The situation is so sad, you know. For one to abandon his office to come and seek for fuel is a very appalling situation. I've been here over 5 hours. I said I came in here around 6:30. They say they will start by 10. By 10:30 they kick off. So up till now, they are still hoping that before the end of today we'll get fuel.
There is no fuel because I have exhausted my fuel. So if I should go home now, I can't come back here. So that's why I said, okay, let me hold on. But they said that this charges some tankers, and some people said that they will start selling by 5 p.m. That means 5 a.m. in the morning. Yes. So that's why I decided to sleep.
When I drove to this place, most of the petrol stations I passed near them had no fuel. So I suppose the problem will intensify. The best thing to do is the government should just quickly do what it wants to do. That is, increase the price and let people have fuel. That will make things easier for them than to just keep quiet and clearly things are not moving on fine.
Okay. I've been here since 8 o'clock and now it's almost 3. Since 8 in the morning.
Where are you supposed to be?
I was not even able to go to office. I was supposed to go to work. I've not been to the office. I was supposed to go and pick my children around 2. Now it's to 3. They're still in school.
Well, I've been on this queue since the early hours of today, say like 4 hours now. And the scarcity is biting harder and harder. It wasn't like this, I think, 4 or 5 days back. But today, almost every filling station you go to, you see a very long queue. And that is how we have been suffering since yesterday and then today.
What is your message to the authorities concerned?
The authorities concerned should sit up. We understand that some of the fuel stations have fuel. They are only hoarding it with the thinking that subsidy will be removed, and then fuel prices will go up. So we are calling on authorities concerned to visit such filling stations and make them to sell fuel to the populace.
Kaduna Metropolis, like many cities in Nigeria, is experiencing long queues at the filling stations, especially within the metropolis. Though some filling stations are closed due to non-availability of the product, others are busy dispensing fuel, but with long queue to contend with. Some of the motorists who spent hours on the queue narrate their ordeal.
I have spent more than 3 hours on this queue and the line is not moving at all, and I don't know the reason. And the people selling black market get access easily to the fuel. They surpass us and go in. Immediately, they will be giving fuel. This is cheating.
On February 14th, the Academic Staff Union of Universities embarked on an industrial action to press home its demands for a better welfare package, revamping the nation's education sector, among others, a situation that forced many Nigerian students to be at home. Meanwhile, the National Association of Nigerian Students held a nationwide protest against a lingering strike by the Academic Staff Union of Universities. The protesting students began the protest from the Unity Fountain to other parts of the Federal Capital Territory with presence of security operatives expressing their demands of the federal government and the striking Academic Staff Union of Universities. President of the National Association of Nigerian Students, Sunday Asefon, while addressing journalists at the gates of the National Assembly, said the Students' Union has given the federal government an ultimatum to meet and resolve the issue with ASU or face a national mass action by the Nigerian students.
As a matter of urgent, that we want the Speaker and the Senate President to help us intervene on the matter that matters to our life. Yes. Education is a right. Yes. It's not a privilege. Yes. We are calling on them. Yes. They should talk to ASU. They should talk to federal government. They should have an equilibrium. They should resolve their differences. We want to go back to school. We want to go back to class. We are tired of being at home.
Now, speaking of the year 2022, setting the pace for preparation of the general elections, in January, the National Assembly passed the harmonized version of Electoral Act Amendment Bill to include provisions that clearly define the mode of primaries for political parties. Consensus mode of primaries is one of the 3 options introduced in the re-amended Electoral Act Amendment Bill, which later signed and passed into law by President Muhammadu Buhari on 25th February 2022.
While the House passed the mode of primaries to include direct and indirect only, the Senate passed the direct, indirect, and the consensus mode of primaries.
We will recall that the Senate and the House passed the Electoral Act Amendment Bill with slight difference. While the House passed the mode of primaries to be direct and indirect only, the Senate passed the mode of primaries to be direct, indirect, and consensus. What we have done is to give very clear and sufficient definition to each mode of primaries.
The Independent National Electoral Commission released the schedule of activities for the 2023 general elections following the signing into law of the Electoral Act Amendment Bill. Chairman of the Commission, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, said based on the requirements of the new act, which states that notice of elections be made at least 360 days before stipulated date of election, the Commission has moved the date of the 2023 presidential and National Assembly elections to the 25th of February 2023, as well as the governorship and House of Assembly elections moved to the 11th of March 2023.
The INEC chairman began by announcing the new dates for the 2023 presidential, governorship, national and state assembly elections.
The Commission has decided to adjust the dates for the 2023 general election to ensure compliance with the provisions of the new law. Accordingly, the presidential and National Assembly elections will now hold on Saturday, 25th February 2023, while the governorship and state houses of assembly elections will hold 2 weeks later on Saturday, 11th March 2023. With this adjustment, the 2023 general election is now 363 days away.
Other critical time-bound activities on the notice of elections, such as conduct of party primaries, submission of nomination forms to INEC, commencement of campaign by political parties for the various elections, final day of campaign by political parties, and so on, were also released. Professor Yakubu warned that parties who fail to comply with the timeline will not be allowed to nominate candidates to the Commission for participation in the election.
With the coming into force of the Electoral Act 2022, the Commission will work assiduously to conclude and publish new regulations and guidelines for the conduct of elections that are consistent with the Act. Any political party that fails to comply with the timelines provided for in the timetable and schedule of activities, particularly with respect to the conduct of party primaries and the nomination of candidates, will not be expected to nominate candidates to the Commission for elections.
He also expressed confidence in the capability of the Commission to transmit polling unit level results electronically to the INEC results viewing portal from its 176,000 polling units nationwide.
From the pilot we conducted, transmitting results to our ARREARS portal, we have covered all the nooks and crannies of Nigeria. We have had no challenge, whether it is remote rural place or urban areas, in transmitting results. So that has convinced us that actually we can transmit results by uploading polling unit level results to the ARREARS portal in from all the 176,000 locations nationwide.
On the issue of the bimodal voter accreditation system, BVAS, the INEC chairman says that despite setbacks recorded during the FCT area council elections, the BVAS had performed optimally in the ongoing state constituency elections across 4 states.
We had issues in the FCT area council elections, but what is happening right now as we speak in 4 states of the Federation is a cause for cheer. There are no glitches in Ogoja-Yala and Akpabio state constituency in Cross River. There are no glitches in Ongopala in Imo State. There are no glitches reported from Pangshin South in Plateau State or Jos North and Bassa federal constituency in the same Plateau State. And we have had no reports of glitches in Akure North, Akure South federal constituency in Ondo State. We responded, learned from the experience of previous elections, and we have improved on the functionality of the BVAS.
With the signing and passage of the new Electoral Act 2022, it is expected that critical issues such as early disbursement of election funds, early commencement of party primaries, inclusion of persons with disabilities, electronic accreditation of voters, and transmission of results, among others, will be put to rest.
Towards the end of February 2022, Russia invaded Ukraine. Attacks by Russian forces were reported in major cities across Ukraine, including Berdyansk, Chernihiv, Kharkiv, Odessa, Sumy, and the capital, Kyiv. But in March 2023, the Nigerian government began evacuation of its citizens who had fled in the wake of the conflict to border countries in Poland, Romania, Hungary, and Slovakia for safety. Take a look at the arrival at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport in Abuja.
These were the reaction of parents who were all smiles, having been reunited with their children who were trapped in Ukraine following its invasion by Russia. While speaking to Trust TV, the parents say that it had been a traumatic experience for them and applauded the Nigerian government for its quick response to the situation.
The day I heard of this thing, it's like this heaven will fall on top of my head. He is my firstborn. The father is late. But I thank God the day I heard of it, since that the option I cannot eat. But when they say government is going to assist us, I was so happy.
I am very happy to receive my daughter. I can't wait to see her. In fact, I don't even know what to say. I really appreciate Nigerian government for this great job that they did.
The students also narrated what they went through to get to safety.
The experience was actually hectic. It came to us more like
an unaware team. So it wasn't easy at all. We experienced racism, we experienced so many things, so many violent encounters with people. At some point I was underground in Kharkiv in Ukraine. I had to run underground to hide myself. So at that point when I was hearing gunshots, I thought all hope were lost.
But when the train came, it was full and they refused to open the doors for passengers to get in. So I wasn't able to go on the first day. I had to come back the next day. So I was able to take a train to Lviv. Then I got on the wrong train. So I went to the wrong border instead. So I had to go all the way back to Lviv. It was very stressful.
So when we heard it was getting closer, before the night we left, I think we started hearing the bombs started getting to our side. So so many of us were hesitant, but the bomb just, made us, sure of what we were doing. So, okay, the next morning we left.
They only allowed, first of all, they started allowing their white women before they allowed their white men, before they now started allowing black women. Sometimes, in some trains, they had to drag some black men out of the train, basically. So it was basically based on racism.
For sure there was a discrimination. I can't say no to that, but from my side, I didn't get any discrimination. We didn't get any bad experience, but our fellow Nigerians, they really, discriminate them. I can say that.
The Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Sadia Umar Farouk, who received the evacuees on behalf of the government, says it is doing its best to ensure that Nigerians stranded as a result of the war are returned home safely.
I feel very relieved because our government has been very, very proactive. Mr. President has done all the needful, and he directed that all Nigerians living in these countries should be brought back home.
It was a very, very stressful venture, but we take joy because we are saving lives, we are rescuing our compatriots, our future.
What then is the hope for these young students who have been forced to abandon their education abroad and return to Nigeria, where its universities are shut due to a lingering disagreement between the government and the Academic Staff Union of Universities?
I think that's the hardest part of it all. That's the hardest part because I've borne some amount of years, right? So one of the reasons why most people probably move out of the country is because of the strike stuff. What happens now? What do we do next? You wake up one morning and then your whole life is changed, 180.
It is often said that once there is life, there is hope. So we've all come along, we've all come to this reality, and we still believe and we still hope that someday we'll go back to school. We have to even be more concerned about those that are victims.
I don't know what to do next, basically. So right now it's based on what people around us have to offer us and what we can actually try and gather for ourselves.
So we have that fear of our education, everything has changed within a time, so we don't even know what to do and what will happen to our fate and our future. So we were very scared, we are scared, till now we are scared.
This story talks about the fall of a celebrated police officer. Suspended head of the Intelligence Response Team, DCP Abba Kyari, was arrested alongside 4 others by the police hours after the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency declared him wanted over alleged drug links. The suspended DCP is also under investigation after the Federal Bureau of Investigation of the United States of America indicted him in the case of fraud involving Instagram celebrity Ramona Bass, better known as Hush Puppy.
At a point in his career, he was seen by many as a Nigerian version of the American super cop Elliot Ness, an incorruptible crime buster on a mission to weed out criminal elements from the society. However, unlike many dutiful men of the security services who barely get heard for what they do, Kyari was heard and lavishly seen. This, for cynics, was the first alarm. Kyari began his ascent to limelight with his appointment as the officer in charge of the defunct Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS, Lagos State in January 2011. He went on to carve a niche for himself by busting syndicates of criminals, armed robbers, kidnappers, and internet fraudsters, amongst others. He joined the Nigerian police force as a cadet assistant superintendent of police in 2000 and served at different times at Song, Giri, and Numan local government areas and made local news for his arrest of a notorious armed robber called Ndagi, also known as Spirit. He recorded headline-grabbing milestones including the arrest of kidnapping kingpins Evans in Lagos and Wadume in Taraba, and led the rescue of a relative of President Muhammadu Buhari from a kidnapper's den in Kano. For years, the senior police officer operated not only as a super cop with the proverbial magic wand for unraveling crime, but also a celebrity cop with his life and tasks, including sensitive missions, blogged on Instagram and other social media platforms. It was, however, heartbreaking for many of his fans when, in August last year, details of his close relation with celebrity internet fraudster Ramon Olorunwa Abbas, alias Hush Puppy, were made public. The United States Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, which released the details as part of its probe into a $1.1 million fraud committed by the conman, indicted Kerry as a partner in the fraud. As sensational as it was, the US government's 2021 indictment of the Super Cop was not the first time he will be accused of compromise, nor is it likely to be the last, going by the most recent scandal which broke out involving him. In the past, Kerry and his team were accused of human rights abuses, molesting suspects, and converting confiscated property. The Super Cop, who initially denied any link with Hush Puppy when the sordid details of their relationship began resurfacing, kept changing the story by editing the Facebook post 12 times. Kerry was subsequently suspended from service and a probe panel instituted to investigate him. But 6 months later, the police authorities are yet to take a stand on the issue, with many commentators suspecting a cover-up grander than the usual esprit de corps, with unresolved allegations of gross misconduct pending against him. The latest accusation coming from no less than the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, linking him with drug cartels has sealed Kerry's reputation as an expert in running with the hare and hunting with the hounds.
March 28, 2022 will forever be remembered as gunmen attacked a train on its way from Abuja. The attack took place around the Kateri Regional area of Kaduna, minutes away from its final stop. Several persons were killed, injured, and over 60 others were abducted. The passengers were later released in batches, with the last set freed in October, while the Abuja-Kaduna train service resumed operations in December.
It's been tough, but we thank God for His grace and mercy. And the prayers, we know that we've prayed and we know that we've had the prayers of our loved ones with us back in the forests there. It hasn't been easy. Everyone has been sick. I came back with my daughter sick because there has not been medication. She hasn't been responding to treatment that from the medications they've given. But we thank God for mercy and grace, and we just pray that the rest of the people that we left back would be released as soon as possible. So whatever the government or whoever it is that can support to get them out, we pray that they do whatever they can to get them out as soon as possible, because the situation is actually tough.
I'm Abu Bakr Idris Garba. I am a civil servant working in the National Assembly Service Commission. I would like to sincerely thank Almighty Allah Subhanahu wa ta'ala, who made this possible for myself and my entire family, and especially Sheikh Gumi, who is here present to receive us, including my family, friends, and all who have supported and stayed with us throughout this ordeal. And I would like to say one thing, just to add to what Sheikh Gumi has said. There is no bound for negotiations. 65 of us boarded March 28, 2022. We boarded the train, a federal government train. For goodness sake, what does it take the federal government to negotiate, to sit with these people, find out their grievances? They have innocent people, hardworking people, men who have left their children, they have left their wives for over 135 days. There are people there stranded. They don't have any means. Please, we're pleading on the federal government. Please, sit with these people. seek Sheikh Gumi's audience, please, by the grace of God, with him here, he could assist and alleviate and help solve these problems.
Actually, I'm so excited in the midst of to gain my freedom, and as you can see, in the midst of my friends and relatives, I'm highly excited and overwhelmed by the reception I received from my family.
Any special message?
Yes, actually, I'm calling on as I said, the government has failed woefully in terms of security and in terms of rescuing our brothers that are still in captivity. So I am calling on the international communities and also other foreign agencies to come to their aid to see that they are rescued on time, because the situation they are in now is actually terrible.
Was there any kind of attempt by the security agencies to rescue you guys while in the forest?
Actually, there is none. I have never heard of that. Thank you.
Talking about torture, talking about the torturing.
No, that is obvious, as a video was released yesterday, and you see the kind of torture we experienced during that period, and it's like the thing is getting worse and worse. So therefore, the international community needs to come in and see how they can rescue those in captivity. And those in captivity, including small children, yeah, on their age, they are there really suffering for over 4 months, sleeping on bare floor, in spite of the harsh weather, harsh condition we are in.
These are among the last 23 victims of train attack released by terrorists on October 5th. Though they have been reunited with their families, but life has not been easy for them as they face many challenges after regaining freedom.
Currently now everybody is facing different challenges with the things we've lost, and many of us are even working under a private institution, and while these incidents occur, you know, definitely they are going to replace you with somebody. You are not going to, they won't wait for you to let this person come back first, no. So many of us have even lost what they are doing.
So actually the limit of trauma is over to us, and then nobody going to assist us. We are spending a day and night going to hospital without the cover of government. But we really appreciate them for rescuing us. But the limit of the health challenge we are facing now is so critical. And then all our business has been down.
To alleviate their suffering, they plead with government to support them so that they could be mentally stable.
Actually, they did collected our contacts, but they were going to get back to us. But till now, nobody said anything. And we are even facing different intimidation from our fellow humans that we collected huge amounts of money from the federal government, and we are not ready to spend it. And even some of them are even criticizing us and telling us that we have money, and we are claiming that we don't have money. That how can somebody like us have a conference with the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and we end up saying we don't have anything?
People that they wish to come to assist us, they are now intimidating us, saying that a federal government give us a struggling hook of money to us.
Recalling their experience as victims of train attack, they want the government to strengthen security measures as the Abuja-Kaduna train service resumed operation.
My advice is they should be very, very careful, honestly. And all the maintenance they know they've not done, they should do it. And they shouldn't see as if, okay, the train is moving something nobody know. Because somebody that is wiser than you can do more. So it's better for them to be extravagant, to be, they should be foreseeing in what is going to happen. You understand? Those bulletproof something and all those, they should have a CCTV, everything that would, if there is anything on the way, as in something, let me say some meters away, the train should be able to capture.
It's been a while since these victims regained their freedom, but they said they are still mentally devastated from the trauma of the attack.
Fans of famous gospel musician Osinachi Nwachukwu will forever recall her demise in April. Osinachi died on April 8 following alleged beating and molestation she received from her husband, Peter Nwachukwu. The singer's untimely death at the hands of her husband caused a public outcry and demands for justice. In May 2022, lynching of Miss Deborah Samuel, a second-year student of Shehu Shagari College of Education, Sokoto State, resulted into another public outcry. Deborah was stoned to death by an angry mob and later set ablaze over comments of blasphemy. Although soon after the news of the dastardly act was reported, the Sokoto Sultanate Council issued a statement describing the act as unjustifiable. The council also urged security agencies to bring the perpetrators to justice. However, police said it had arrested 2 suspects as the state government shut down the school.
Everything is being done by the security agencies to fish out those that are behind this dastardly act, and they will be accordingly prosecuted as provided by law. Let me further appeal to our students that we must not develop or imbibe the habit of taking law onto our hands. It is important that whenever and if there is any issue that one or some people are not comfortable with, they report such to constituted authority.
We condemn the act in its entirety. We also condole the family of Deborah and others who are mourning her. We are going to try the best we can at the current level to ensure that we cooperate, we follow this case to ensure that justice is served appropriately.
On 5th June 2022, a mass shooting and bomb attack occurred at St. Francis Catholic Church in the city of Owo in Ondo State. At least 40 people were killed, with the highest estimates being around 80. In his reaction, President Muhammadu Buhari expressed shock and sadness over the heinous killing of the worshippers, said eternal sorrow awaited those behind the killing, both here on earth and in the hereafter. Similarly, while condemning the attack, Governor Rotimi Akeredolu of Ondo State vowed to make the perpetrators pay. Still in June, Justice Tanko Mohammed resigned from his position as a Chief Justice of Nigeria. Mohammed's resignation comes amid the corruption allegations leveled against him by some Supreme Court judges. President Buhari swore in Mohammed as the acting CJN in January 2019, following the suspension and later sack of former CJN Walter Onogen. We'll go on a quick break now, and more stories to come after the break. Do stay with us. Welcome back. If you're just joining in, this is Year in Review on Trust Television, where we'll take a look at some of the major stories that made the rounds in the year 2022. Moving on, earlier in July, gunmen suspected to be bandits attacked the convoy of President Muhammadu Buhari in his home state, Katsina. Ambush of the advanced convoy of Nigeria's president happened in Dusima, about 152 kilometers from Buhari's hometown of Daura. Buhari spokesman Garba Shehu said the convoy included an advanced team of security guards, protocol and media officers. Similarly, gunmen attacked some officials of the 7th Guards Battalion of the Nigerian Army Presidential Guards Brigade. The incident, which took place around the Buhari Area Council of Abuja, left 3 soldiers wounded and 8 personnel killed. 2 of the slain personnel were officers, including a captain and lieutenant, while the remaining were soldiers. The attack on the Guards Brigade, whose duty is to protect the president, comes few weeks after terrorists launched a similar attack on a presidential convoy in Dutsima, Katsina State. Still in July, the federal government declared inmates who escaped from Kuje prison in Abuja wanted. Insurgents had attacked the correctional service facility in the Federal Capital Territory, where over 900 inmates, including Boko Haram suspects who were in the prison, escaped. The federal government further released the names and photos of the fleeing inmates. Meanwhile, the Islamic State in West Africa province had claimed responsibility for the attack. On 28 July, the Kano State High Court sentenced Abdulmalik Tanko, a teacher who murdered his pupil, Hanifa Abubakar, last December to death. Tanko, the proprietor of Noble Kids College, was sentenced to death by hanging. Alongside his accomplice, Hashim Isiaku and Fatima Musa, were arraigned before the Kano State High Court on a 5-count charge of criminal conspiracy, kidnapping, confinement, and culpable homicide, contrary to sections 97, 274, 277, 221 of the Penal Code. Tanko kidnapped and killed Hanifa, a 5-year-old pupil, on 4th December 2021 while she was returning from Islamia school and subsequently buried.
With regards to the kidnapping, the concealment, the punishment for that is death. And the first and second defendant were sentenced to death on those two offenses, and then on the offense of conspiracy, the first defendant was given 5 years, while the second defendant was given, if I'm not mistaken, 2 years. And then the third defendant was given 2 years also for the two offenses he was convicted on.
Nearly 5 months since Abdulmalik Tanko and 2 others were first brought before a Kano State High Court on the allegation of kidnapping and killing of 5-year-old Hanifa Abubakar. Presiding Judge Justice Usman Nabba ruled that the prosecution has proved beyond reasonable doubt that Abdulmalik and his co-accused had indeed committed a crime punishable under sections 97, 274, 277, and 221 laws of Kano State.
There are about 5 head count of charges. We succeeded in 4. Of course, we succeeded in proving to the court that there was kidnapping. Hanifa was kidnapped by the first accused person, and which kidnapped was known by the second defendant, but he concealed it and did not disclose it to the security agencies. And again, thirdly, we also charged them with conspiracy, which also the court agreed with us that the 3 of them conspired to kidnap Hanifa.
Alhamdulillah.
In August, one of Nigerians in the diaspora making the country proud, Tobi Amusan, got another record-breaking gold medal for Team Nigeria, this time at the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham, United Kingdom. Amusan lined up in the final as favorite for gold, and there was no stopping her as she blazed to a new games record of 12.30 seconds to retain the 100-meter hurdles she won 4 years ago in the Gold Coast, Australia. Former Deputy Senate President Ike Ekweremadu and wife Beatrice, daughter Sonia, and doctor are facing charges bordering on conspiracy to arrange, facilitate the travel of another person with a view to exploitation, namely organ harvesting. The couple was arrested by London Metropolitan Police in June and appeared before a magistrate court in July. At a later hearing, Ekweremadu and the doctor Obinna Obeta were remanded into custody, while Beatrice and daughter Sonia were released on conditional bail. In August, the National Broadcasting Commission imposed 5 million naira fines on Trust Television, MultiChoice Nigeria Limited, Telcom Satellite Limited, and StarTimes Limited for airing a documentary on banditry. Trust TV had aired a It titled Nigeria's Banditry, The Inside Story in March, while the British Broadcasting Corporation, BBC Africa Eye, released its documentary, The Bandit Warlords of Zamfara. The fines for DSTV, Star Times and TSTV were because the platforms aired the BBC documentary on banditry.
We are aware of both the two promos by the BBC and also the interview conducted with the band leader Tuji by the Daily Trust. All I can say is that there's a regulatory body, that is the NBC, and the NBC are also aware of these two incidents. They are looking at which part of the broadcasting code which parts have been violated by both the BBC and the Daily Trust.
As political campaigns officially commence in September for the upcoming 2023 general elections, presidential candidates signed a peace accord in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. The chairman of the National Peace Committee and former military head of state, Abdulsalami Abubakar, appealed to the 18 political parties, their presidential candidates and spokespersons to commit to issues-based campaigns, as fake news and misinformation are already creating a toxic environment that is capable of threatening the peaceful conduct of the 2023 general elections. Some of the presidential candidates at the event include Labour Party's Peter Obi, People's Democratic Party's Atiku Abubakar, New Nigeria People's Party's Rabiu Kwankwaso, or Moyele Sowore of the African Action Congress. However, Bola Tinubu of the All Progressives Congress was absent, while his running mate, Kashim Shettima, was present. Moving on to humanitarian emergencies, with over 500 dead and 90,000 homes destroyed, the flooding ravaging parts of Nigeria has been described as one of the most devastating experiences in recent history. The 2022 flooding in Nigeria is one of the country's most severe flooding disasters since 2012. As of October 24th, the country's Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs said over 3.2 million people have been affected, with more than 600 deaths. The report from the federal government shows that the flood disaster destroyed hundreds of farmlands, while thousands of houses were submerged in the affected 34 states across the country. The federal government has been served with the appeal court judgment freeing Nnamdi Kanu, leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra. The Court of Appeal in Abuja struck out the terrorism charges filed against Kanu by the government and ordered his release from the custody of the State Security Services. But the Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, argued that the Court of Appeal only discharged Kanu and did not acquit him. He indicated that the government would not release Kanu despite the court ruling. Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, says the Apex Bank has redesigned some new Naira notes. Emefiele said the new design and issues will be effective from mid-December 2022. According to Emefiele, the new notes include 200 Naira, 500 Naira, and 1,000 Naira notes. He advised Nigerians to take old notes to banks to enable them withdraw the new banknotes once circulation begins. Speaking on the motivation for the change, the CBN governor explained that the decision was reached due to persistent concerns with the management of the current series of banknotes and currency in circulation, particularly those outside the banking system in Nigeria. Now, still in October, President Muhammadu Buhari presented a record of 20.51 trillion naira 2023 appropriation bill to the National Assembly. The president made the presentation to the joint session of the National Assembly at the temporary chamber of the House of Representatives. The National Assembly had approved the medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper perimeters on which the 2023 budget will be framed. While presenting the details, Buhari said the 2023 transition budget was designed to address critical issues and lay a solid foundation for the incoming administration. To more business and matters of the economy, Nigeria's headline inflation quickened with pace further rising to a new high of 21.47% in November 2022 from 21.09% in October 2022, according to the National Bureau of Statistics. This is a 6.07% increase compared to November 2021's 15.40%, which means that in the month of November 2022, the general price level was 6.07% higher relative to November 2021, the highest peak in at least 17 years. Ahead of the 2023 general elections, the Independent National Electoral Commission has commenced the distribution of permanent voters' cards at its local government offices nationwide in December. INEC has fixed between December 12, 2022 and January 22, 2023 as the dates for PVC collection in all its 774 local government offices nationwide from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. daily, including Saturdays and Sundays. The exercise is expected to be devolved to the 8,809 registration areas and wards from Friday, January 6 to Sunday, January 15, 2023. After January 15, 2023, the exercise will revert to local government offices of the Commission until January 22, 2023. Now, on to reward for excellence. The Wole Soyinka Center for Investigative Journalism has rewarded 13 journalists who distinguished themselves in investigative journalism in Nigeria at the 17th edition of its Wole Soyinka Award for Investigative Reporting, which took place in Lagos on December 9, 2022. Trust TV's Abdulaziz won the television category of the 17th Wole Soyinka Award for Investigative Reporting. The documentary, titled Nigeria's Banditry, The Inside Story, won him the coveted award.
It's really exciting and very rewarding, especially because of the labor, the effort, and the risks one has taken to undergo to do this story. And I feel really happy. And I think this is a wake-up call, not only to me, but also to all my colleagues. And I think it's a big congratulations to all the people who also helped or supported this story, CDD, Trust TV, and all that.
Well, I'm super excited. I'm super excited right now because it's really an honor to actually be commended for my work, because I know what I went through to actually do that piece. And so awards like this are very important because it tells you as a journalist that what you're doing is important, and it also helps journalists to get to do more for their communities.
2022 FIFA World Cup continues to leave a mark as Argentina won the 2022 World Cup in Qatar after a dramatic final against France ended in a penalty shootout, with Lionel Messi proving to be an influential figure once again for his nation. Now, the National Assembly has passed the 2023 appropriation bill at 21.83 trillion naira. This shows an increase of 1.32 trillion naira from the 20.51 trillion naira budget proposal of President Muhammadu Buhari. A breakdown of the budget indicates an allocation of 967.5 billion naira for statutory transfers, 6.6 trillion naira for debt servicing, 8.3 trillion naira for recurrent expenditure, and 5.9 trillion naira for capital expenditure. Finally, to sports news, Pele, one of the greatest football legends of all time, has died aged 82. He had been suffering with kidney and prostate problems in recent years. The late football legend is credited with scoring a world record of 1,281 goals in 1,363 appearances during a 21-year career, including 77 goals for 92 matches for his country. Pele is the only player to win the World Cup 3 times, lifting the trophy in 1958, 1962, and 1970. He was named FIFA's Player of the Century in 2000. On that note, we've come to the end of the year in review on Trust Television, and we know that 2022 will continue to be a resounding year in the minds of people as there are recurrent events that made the headlines in the year. We do hope to see you next time in the new year. I'm Aisha Salihu. Thanks for watching.